Let's talk about why. Criminal contempt is back in play. If guys like Steve Bannon, Mark Meadows, or other Donald Trump lackeys refuse to comply with subpoenas from the House Select Committee investigating the attack on the Capitol, let's talk about why criminal contempt is back in play. Because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So we've seen that the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th insurrection, the attack on the Capitol, has been issuing subpoenas. A first round of subpoenas went to a bunch of Trump lackeys. It's Steve Bannon, Mark Meadows, Kash Patel, Dan Scavino, and they are scheduled to appear before Congress in the near future. A second round of subpoenas, 11 of them, went to people who organized the Trump rally. So the question becomes, if the Steve Bannons and the Mark Meadows and these other Trump sycophants refuse to appear, if they would rather be held in contempt, what happens? Well, here's what happens, and there actually is some good news on this front. So there's something called criminal contempt, and the vehicle of criminal contempt for people who refuse to comply with congressional subpoenas is back in play. Why is that? Well, under Bill Barr's time as Attorney General, Bill Barr was not at all interested in assisting Congress in enforcing its subpoenas. Why? Because Congress was trying to subpoena people who could provide incriminating information about Donald Trump. Bill Barr was in place as a nefarious Attorney General, as a corrupt AG, to protect Donald Trump. So Bill Barr was not going to help Congress enforce its subpoenas. However, the way the system is supposed to work, and the way I'm confident it will work under Merrick Garland, is as follows. Let's use Steve Bannon as an example. Steve Bannon has already been subpoenaed to appear before the House Select Committee. If Steve Bannon thumbs his nose at Congress, basically says, I ain't coming, well, then Congress can vote out a contempt charge, and that contempt charge gets referred to the Department of Justice, specifically the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office, my former office. And here's how the law reads once Congress has made that kind of a criminal contempt referral. It's found in two federal laws, and they are 2 United States Code Section 192 and 194. It says when that kind of a criminal referral is made by Congress, the U.S. Attorney, quote, has a duty to bring the matter before the grand jury for its action, close quote. What does that action look like? I've been in the grand jury hundreds, perhaps thousands, of times in my nearly a quarter of a century at the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office. Here's what that looks like. The evidence that a Steve Bannon, for example, is in contempt of a congressional subpoena will be presented to the grand jury. That is a fairly short process. It can be done in a day. And the grand jury is asked to vote out a criminal charge of contempt against Steve Bannon. That carries up to 1 year in prison. Now, as cathartic as it would be for most of the American population to see Steve Bannon actually go to prison, or Mark Meadows, or Kash Patel, or Dan Scavino, I think ultimately the goal of pursuing this remedy, this vehicle of criminal contempt, is to get people to actually appear, to testify truthfully and fully before Congress. So after the grand jury indicts a Steve Bannon for criminal contempt, then you'll probably see the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office negotiate a resolution of that case that involves Steve Bannon appearing and testifying fully and truthfully before the House Select Committee. rather than going to trial in his criminal contempt case, being convicted, and being imprisoned for up to a year. Though, yes, that would seem like just deserts for a guy like Steve Bannon, who committed other crimes and was pardoned by his criminal associate Donald Trump. But that is the vehicle of criminal contempt, and I suspect we're going to see it deployed very soon. In fact, the chairman of the House Select Committee, Representative Benny Thompson, and others have been saying, oh, we will be making criminal referrals to the Department of Justice. In other words, this time around, it's on. Perhaps Congress has learned from its mistakes and, frankly, failures of the past by not pulling out all the stops to enforce their subpoenas. I won't spend much time talking about the inherent contempt of Congress. That's another lawful vehicle that Congress has to enforce its own subpoenas. It was last used in the 1930s. It has repeatedly been deemed lawful by the Supreme Court. So if push comes to shove, I hope Congress will dust off its inherent power of contempt to enforce its own subpoenas. Doesn't even have to use the Department of Justice to do it. But first things first, let's see if the Select Committee follows through on its promise to use criminal contempt to try to compel witnesses to testify. So friends, let's hope Congress follows through on its promise to pursue criminal contempt if witnesses like Steve Bannon and Mark Meadows refuse to comply with lawfully issued congressional subpoenas. Boy, if ever justice mattered, it matters when Congress is investigating an attempted overthrow of our democracy, an attempt by Donald Trump to unlawfully, unconstitutionally hold on to power after the people voted him out of office. Yeah, that's when justice matters. Friends, as always, thank you for tuning into these daily Justice Matters videos. You can also find them in podcast form, audio only. Just go wherever you ordinarily get your podcasts. And of course, if you want to support our all-volunteer efforts, our mission, our content here at Justice Matters, you can always go over to patreon.com. You can sign up to become a patron. And if you do, I will send you some Team Justice stickers and a personal handwritten note of thanks. And as always, friends, please stay safe. Please stay tuned. And I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.